Live from Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, it's the Joe Cortez Show.
Welcome to the Joe Cortez Show here in Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment capital of the world. And of course, you all know the boxing capital of the world. This past weekend, we had the fight that the fans been waiting for over a year. The Triple G, Gennady Golovkin versus Saul Canelo Alvarez from Mexico. It was a great fight. It was a fight that the fans wanted to see who was the best 160-pounder in the ring Saturday night. And of course, we have someone here who can tell us a little bit more of the recap of the fight. We have none other than Bob Bennett, the Executive Director of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Thank you very much, Joe. It's nice to be back.
Great. Bob, as you all know, this past weekend, with that fight, the fans were so excited to see the two warriors in the ring, and they really gave it all they had. I felt that Gennady Golovkin didn't have as much as he did last year. Of course, he's a year older. And in boxing, you know, when you're 36 years of age, you start to slip some, and you get old overnight. I think Canelo Alvarez did a great fight. He was more the aggressive this time. He was not up against the ropes as much as he was last year. And of course, when you're the aggressor, the judges seem to want to a close round. They seem to maybe give it to the aggressor because he's pressing the fight. He's making the fight. And Canelo Alvarez definitely had good counter punches, good body shots. And I think the right man won this fight. What can you tell us about the way you saw it?
Well, the way I saw it would be indicative of the judges. We had three probably future Hall of Fame judges with Dave Moretti, Steve Weisfeld, and Glenn Feldman. After 6 rounds, all three judges had the same exact score, 58-56 for Canelo.
Right.
They also had the same rounds, 10 and 11 for Gennady. So they saw the fight 8 rounds out of 12, which is, in a fight like this that's extremely competitive, is highly unusual, and the judges did a phenomenal job. And then, of course, in the final round, 2 of the judges gave it to Canelo and one to Triple G.
Right. Well, I can tell you guys one thing is that I was very pleased at the outcome of the fight for the simple reason that the fans really were the winners in that night because besides Canelo taking home the green belt, WBC title, and WBA title, I mean, the fans really, walked out of there saying, wow, what a fight. Everybody was so pleased. I mean, some of the fans felt like Triple G won, but then, of course, you're always going to have that. If you're a fan favorite of a particular fighter, or if you're watching it at home, you may get influenced by the commentators and the Harold Letterman, the ringside unofficial scorer, also had Triple G winning. So, of course, that will influence some of the fans who know really nothing about boxing. Some fans that are watching don't know a left hook from a fish hook. And I can tell you that, you can get influenced very easily. But if you're a real true fight fan, if you follow the sport really good, you can really give some points for the fighter who's throwing punches to the body. And Gennady Golovkin received some shots that probably you and I caught them all, but the fans at home were probably missing it because you don't know that a good body punch is more devastating sometimes than a shot to the head. They say you kill the body, the head dies. So it tells you a little bit about how boxing goes these days. And if you're a true fight fan, that's why I want you guys to tune into our show and also watch my other show on Fair But Firm boxing show every Monday. I have John Zimmer with me, and we kind of kick around a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes so you guys can understand what boxing is all about, because as a fan, I can see you guys loving the sport and loving a particular fighter, but I look at it as an official. I don't look at it like a fan. I try to be as neutral as possible like I was when I was a referee. And Bob, you have some of the best referees in the world, and they do the mega fights, and you got Kenny Bayless, Tony Weeks. This past weekend you had Benji Estevez, and you got some Russell Mora, Vic Draculis, Jay Nady, and Robert Byrd as your top referees here in the state. They all do a fine job. And I can see these guys really stepping up their performance because they all want to do the big fight. Everybody wants to do the big fight, but sometimes, certain referees and judges will get the fight according to. It's like a baseball game. If you're a coach, you're a manager of a team, you know what pitcher you're going to put in for a particular game for the simple reason, the batters on the other team, they strike out against a great fastball pitcher. And you don't want to put in a guy who has a good curve, but the batters on the opposite team, they're good with the curve balls, inside balls, so you put in the right pitcher. Same thing with boxing. You put in the right judges, you pick the right judges for a particular fight because you know their style. You know how the judges score the fight. You want the best. And, of course, the referees. You want certain referees to do certain fights because of the style of the fighters and the ring mechanics of that particular referee. But anyway, that's just a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes, how Joe Cortez thinks as an official, not like a fan. Bob, can you tell us a little bit more about how you see it as you're the coach, you're the director, you and your commission assign the officials?
You're 100% correct. When you sign the officials, it's like the starting lineup, make it the analogy like it's in baseball. But before I get into that, I want to just go back to something very important I think you said. There's really like three types of opinions that you get at the end of a fight like this.
Right.
First, of course, you have the promoters. Now, they have a vested financial interest, blood, sweat, and tears into their fighter. And naturally, when you have two fighters that are really competitive and great fighters, it's going to be a close round. Right. So when it's a close round, they tend to give it to their fighter. Then you have the fans. This is for the fans. It was a great fight, great for boxing, great for the fans. And when you have a fan might like a particular fighter. He might like the way he punches or moves. He may have placed a bet on the fighter or know somebody from the family or, has a beer or something while he's watching the fight. But when you take an official, a judge, or a referee, we don't have a vested interest. Our number one priority is to make sure that it's a level playing field. And all we want to do is from the minute of the first bell, from the first second, right. We want our judges focused in on the fight and know where they're at all times.
And not looking at the wrong girls.
No, not at all. I mean, you're right. Actually, a lot of people do, but I can tell you when I was a judge and I had that 1 minute break, I would put my head down, I'd get refocused, and I'd get ready to go back to work. And I think these judges, which, like I previously mentioned, to agree on 8 out of 12 rounds, it says quite favorable upon the judges.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think that your judges, you selected Glenn Feldman from Connecticut, Steve Weisfeld from New Jersey, and Dave Moretti from Las Vegas. They're all three veteran officials. They knew what they were watching. They knew how important this fight was. Not only this fight, really, if you talk to these judges and referees, they'll tell you they're going to score this fight. They're going to be as focused as they are with 4 rounds and 6-round fights as they are with a championship fight. You can't let the pressure get under your skin. You have to really be focused and call it the way it is and forget the previous round. Forget about who was ahead. Just call every round as a new round. Erase everything from your mind so you can call it the right way. Even if the fighter's lost 10 consecutive rounds, just go 1 round is close. You're not going to give it to him. If he lost it, he lost it. Simple as that. Sometimes you see shutouts, 120,
right.
Scores. So I think that you guys made the right selection for this fight. We know they were under a lot of pressure because of the scoring of last year. But this time, everybody went back to the drawing board, including Canelo Alvarez and Golovkin, and said, we got to do things different and come out on top. And everybody was a winner in this fight. Fighters, referees, judges, everybody, commission, everybody looked good. I must take my hat off to the commission. And I saw Tom Toffler, Gennady Golovkin's promoter, gave kudos to the Nevada State Athletic Commission for a job well done for the selection of the officials. And they were very pleased. They said, we're not going to start bad mouthing anybody. That we got to take off our hat. The Nevada State Athletic Commission did an excellent job. And I was very pleased to see that they seem to be accept the decision, regardless of what some of the fans are saying. You talk to fans out there, Triple G won. Again, you guys probably went in there thinking that he's going to win because of what he did last year. And this time, Canelo really came up on top. And I got to agree with the judges on that one.
No, you're right, Joe. And the selection of the judges, as I stated once before, is, I do a lot of homework before you select these officials, and to make sure they've been consistently correct under pressure. Under the big lights in the Big Ten in Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world, they have to have proven themselves in other fights before they get this opportunity to judge this fight. And they embraced the opportunity, and I have to say, as immodest as it might sound, the judges did exceptionally well, as did Benji Estevez Jr. as the referee.
Right. Now, I know that Saturday night you had a nice group of individuals who went into the dressing room for the instructions of Benji Estevez with the fighters, and I know Governor Sandoval was in that group. I understand, and he was very pleased with the outcome of the fight, and I'm very glad to know that he was happy and gave kudos to the commission, including yourself, for a job well done. I mean, it was a great fight. I mean, everybody was just so delighted the way Benji handled the instructions in the dressing room, because that's where you take control. It's back in the dressing room to make sure that you are on top of your game. If you lose control back in the dressing room, most likely you lose control in the ring. So Benji took control back in the dressing room, making sure everybody knew the rules, make sure there were no fouls, and no hitting on the brakes. Everything was a clean fight, and Benji was like the invisible man Saturday night.
That's right.
During the fight, for what I understand. That's how it was. You done told him that? Somebody I heard somebody say he was like the invisible man during the fight.
That's exactly right, Joe. At the end of the fight, as always, we have a debriefing, and we have the judges speak about the fights and the scoring, and so that we take away something positive, and we learn from every event that we do. And when I spoke about Benji, I called him the invisible man that night because, he was on his game. He was focused. He was in shape. He tried to stay on the open side. He broke them when he needed to break them. If they were holding, both fighters were very professional and terrific sportsmen. When they were in the clinches and Benji was getting ready to break him, you could see Gennady tap his glove on Canelo's back a couple of times, saying, "Hey, man, we're going to break." And it was a clean break. So not only was it a great fight, there were two professional fighters that respected each other in the ring.
Exactly, and that's what we want from boxing, see a good, clean fight. We don't want to see any controversial endings, and fighters get hit behind the head or get hit on the break or hit when they go on the canvas. Here there was no knockdowns at all. There was one slip by Canelo in the later rounds, and Benji rightfully called it a slip. And I think that it was, the kind of fight that a referee wanted to be involved with. A mega fight like that, he didn't have to really get involved, but he was ready if he had to. But he kept himself at a distance and just kept good control, the flow of the fight was going nice. He kept the flow going the way it's supposed to be, and it was hardly any clinches at all. And most of the rounds, it was really back and forth. But there were some rounds in there that were so close that it was coming out to the last 15 seconds. I myself, who was scoring unofficial, for ESPN, was saying, "Oh my God, somebody throw one good punch," because I didn't know if 15 seconds to go, I was still even right then and there. So it goes to show there was several rounds like that. That's why you had a draw in the fight, and it was some rounds were so close, and some of the fans probably were not looking at those close rounds. But if you're having a beer, you're talking to your friend, and you look over for 5 seconds, you're already out of whack because you can't take your eyes off of that one punch is the one punch that you might have missed during your little brief conversation with your friend. When you look back, I made a hot punch or two hot punches land that you missed. So this is why you fans have to just call, and I agree that with those judges.
Joe, you bring up another good point with this fight. This is one of those fights where if you're a professional judge, you realize the minute the bell rings, it's 10-10. You see a big 10 over both of the fighters' head. Whoever lands the first clean, effective blow, boom, it goes to 10-9. So the needle went back and forth. Like Gennady may have been up in the initial. Then all of a sudden, Canelo threw a couple of punches. It was even, and Canelo was up. Then it went back to being even. So it went back and forth, and you really had to stay focused for the complete 3 minutes in order to really effectively judge this fight. You could not take your eyes off the fight for 2 seconds. 2 seconds could have meant, two solid jabs or a right hook that you missed. That could have made the difference in the fight. So you had to really be focused and attentive during the entire fight, and that was indicative of the scores. The three judges had the score at 105, 104 going into the 12th round.
Wow.
So Canelo was up by 1 round until you went into the 12th and final round, and that's how close this fight was, and how both fighters were really warriors, and they were the best in the business. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the fight of the year.
No, I think so. It was definitely the fight the fans were waiting for, so it could possibly be fight of the year. And we have a couple of more fights before the year ends, so I know we got Wilder and Tyson Fury coming up, and You have a couple other fights that last week, the week before, you had Sean Porter with Danny Garcia. So that was another great fight. So they're up in the grades for a couple of the 2 or 3 best fights of the year. So let's see what happens. Now, we also had a great undercard Saturday night. You had Jaime Munguia, who won. He defended his title for the second time and successfully retained his title with a technical knockout. And I remember Jaime Munguia was rejected to fight Gennady Golovkin back in May, Cinco de Mayo, after Canelo was suspended for the substance in his body, and he clenbuterol. It's a drug that was contaminated meat in Mexico. So anyway, he took responsibility for the drugs in his body. So the Nevada State Athletic Commission had to call up the whole show. But Triple G's people came up and said, well, we got an opponent to fight Triple G on Cinco de Mayo, so we have something here Cinco de Mayo. And you guys rejected the fight with Jaime Munguia, and it was because he had, I'm going to let you explain why he was not accepted.
Okay, I'd be honored to, because this is one of the times when you don't approve a fight and you see the benefit from not approving the fight.
Right.
If you would have if the commission would have allowed Munguia to fight Golovkin, it was premature, in our opinion, for that to be approved. I mean, there was a lot of pressure put on the commission in order to give the promoters liked it. Both fighters wanted to fight. The venue was selected. It was the sponsors were real positive about the fight.
Yeah, but Bob, before you go any further than that, I can tell you as an official and being an ex-fighter myself, I know if I would have been thrown in against probably pound for pound the best middleweight in the world against an unknown fighter, I would have gone in there. He had a good record, but he had nobody on his resume who he had beaten. And if you would have accepted that fight, he would have fought Triple G. The chances are 99% that he would have ended up probably stopping Munguia, and Munguia would probably have been damaged goods, but he probably would never be the same again as a fighter. And you know what? His career would have been cut short right then and there. But you made a decision, and tell us why it was a blessing in disguise for him.
Well, Chairman Marnell and I, we made that decision, and actually it was like 10:30 at night. We were on the phone discussing it. Just the fact that, as you said, Munguia hadn't fought the competition or any competition close to Gennady. And if you'd have put this young man in prematurely, he would not be where he is today, in our opinion. So we didn't approve the fight, and he subsequently fought Saddam Ali in New York at junior middleweight at 154, and he knocked him out. And actually, Saddam Ali was really a welterweight at 147 before he fought Cotto. And now he's come back as a champion, as a junior middleweight, a super welterweight, and he's got a lot to be proud of. And he's the fans love him. He's got solid hands. He's getting better and better with each fight. And
he's only 21.
Right, and he's making and he's being paid rather handsomely.
Yeah, and now he's on the right track to a bright and future career ahead of him.
Right, and it's a good feeling. It's one of the few times when you turn down a fight. Everybody usually has derogatory remarks to make, but when you're doing the right thing and you're looking out for the health and safety of the fighter, and you don't approve a fight and it turns into this type of result, it's something that you could be, pardon the immodesty, but you could be proud of for many years for this commission.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one thing, and if you guys ever made a good decision in boxing for saying about it, was that one, because everybody won there. I mean, Gennady Golovkin ended up fighting in Flower in California, and Martirosyan, and he ended up knocking him out in 2 rounds. And Martirosyan was a much better fighter, record on paper, better than Munguia. So here you got Munguia. Now, you guys said no. He got blessing in disguise. You said no because he said, I got to thank the Nevada State Athletic Commission for turning me down, because now I'm the super welterweight champion of the world, 154 pounds. And now here he is defending his title for the second time. He's making a ton of money. I told him the other night, right, you're lucky. A young man, you're 21 years of age, make sure you keep going the way you're going, keep on the right track, and invest your money, save your money, because a lot of these fighters end up kind of broke, tapped out at the end of their career, because they think money going to keep coming in forever. And when they get bumped off, they're no longer the top 10. They're finished. Talking about the top 10, another fighter was on the card. Ramon Chocolatito Gonzalez from Nicaragua, who was considered pound for pound the best in the world last year, beginning of last year or the year before. And now, then 6 months later, he got stopped, he got beat, and then he got knocked out by the same opponent, Rivenside, the fighter from Thailand.
From Thailand,
and
right.
Now he made a comeback Saturday night. What can you tell us about that fight Saturday night?
He looked really good, Chocolito. He was up on his toes. He was moving. He would get inside. He threw punches, as you said, Joe. You know, he lost his last 2 fights. They were real tough fights, and obviously they wanted to see what he had in the gas tank. And he proved to be a solid fighter and won by TKO.
Right. Now we had other good fights on the undercard, the great undercard, and the fighter from Canada, Lemieux. He won also by knockout in the second round, I believe. And you had a couple of good undercards there.
No, in the 4 pay-per-view fights during that last Saturday night, you know, I recall saying to someone, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if I saw 4 knockouts. And subsequently, there was 3.
There were 3, yeah.
And we waited a while for the main event, and it was worth waiting every minute for that main event.
Exactly.
So it was a great night for boxing and a great night for the fans.
Okay, now what is the future? What does it look like? What's on the horizon for the Nevada State Athletic Commission here with boxing? And I know you have a lot of MMA, you have all different combat sports, but for boxing, what do we have on the horizon?
Right now, we have actually a Mayweather fight this coming Saturday. No, Mayweather Promotions. You know, there's some media sites out there saying Pacquiao and Mayweather are going to fight again, and it looks like they're going to, although we don't have any official documentation that they're looking for a license or a specific date. But I wouldn't be surprised if that came to fruition.
Yeah.
And the Wilder fight, he may be down here in
Wilder.
Yep.
Yeah, Deontay Wilder is a heavyweight champion of the world. You fans know that he's fighting Tyson Fury, but they're looking for a fight. The fight fans want to see is Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, and I'm sure that if that takes place, probably be here at the T-Mobile Arena. Now we know that you have so many young fighters up and coming, and you have great fights. But that talk this past weekend, the same Saturday on the news, I guess Mayweather was trying to take the platform and say, you know what, I'm fighting Manny Pacquiao. He was basically, everybody was watching on social media about the fight, and I was, what? These 2 guys again? But you know what? The fans will buy it because they felt that Pacquiao was going to beat Mayweather the first time around. Then he complained that after the fight that he had something wrong with his shoulder, so that was his excuse why he didn't perform 100%. But that's about 3 years, 4 years ago already. And here we are now talking about fighting again with Pacquiao and Mayweather. You know, the fans will buy it. Even though they're 2 old-timers, I would say, I wouldn't call them palookas because they're not palookas yet, because Manny Pacquiao looked good beating the Argentinian fighter Lucas Matisse the other day. Right. He looked excellent. So they say he's 37, 38 years of age, and yet he's still got a spark of the old flash. So you got to say to yourself, yeah, you know what? They're giving the benefit of the doubt. Mayweather's been licking his chops, saying, I want to make a cool $100 million for this rematch with Pacquiao. He said, Pacquiao is older. And he said, I don't care what, I'm going to go in for $100 million. You know what? I will go in there myself. I'm ready to take it off and get in there and go in there with Pacquiao myself for $100 million. Are you kidding me? You know? Bobby, so what else is going on with boxing? How does 2019 look?
2019 looks really good. I mean, you know, we have about 3 or 4 boxing events. Excuse me. We have 3 UFC events coming. We have a new FFC promoter bringing boxing, MMA, and kickboxing with 3 different disciplines.
On the same card, right?
Yes, on the same card.
And that's going to be Friday nights on CBS.
That's correct, at the Dome in the Rio.
Yeah, the Dome at the Rio Hotel. The Dome only holds about 700 capacity, but the gentleman in charge, the president, was telling me the other day, he said, Joe, we don't care too much about the audience because we're gonna have CBS, which is nationwide every Friday night, I mean, every Friday night gonna be like Friday night fights, like back in the golden era, back in the '70s. But they're gonna be MMA, which is good. We didn't have MMA back then. I thought, but as popular as it is today, so that'd be good. And kickboxing and boxing all on the same card, and so that's gonna be exciting. And I think that that's what the fans want to see. People saying that boxing is going dead. I don't know. You guys better look at it carefully, because you look at your TV guy and now you see boxing almost every day of the week. For some place in the world, boxing is on there.
Yeah, and we also have the Contender Series coming back.
That's right.
Should be very exciting. For those of you who have seen it on TV, with Andre Ward and the various fighters that are there. So it should be a very interesting night next month.
Yeah, the Contenders. Does that mean that maybe you and I could qualify? I know you're always in shape, hitting the bag every day. Do we qualify? Is there an age limit for that?
I think we would be comprehensive fighters.
I don't know, but I mean, how much you weigh, buddy? Maybe you and I can get it on there.
We can do it right now if you like.
Oh my God! Come on, man. The guy, he still got a little spark of the old flash. I really respect Bob Bennett.
He got a great sense of humor, Joe.
I'll tell you one thing, guys. We got about 4 minutes to go before we wrap it up. But before I wrap it up, I want to go back a little bit to the assignment of judges and referees. Just for you viewers who missed it last time, how did you get to assign these judges and the referees for this fight?
That's a wise question. We're somewhat of an anomaly, where, because we didn't live up to our expectations in the last fight, what we agreed to with the promoters was that Tom Loeffler could recommend 5 judges that he thought would be good for the fight. And President of Golden Boy, Eric Gomez, he would provide five judges he thought highly of, and then I would do the same. Then the 3 of us would collectively agree on the pool of the fighters. And then I would make the recommendation to the chairman and the commissioners what judges we were going to use. And, it worked out really well because both camps were happy. They didn't have any problem. And then I made the recommendations to Chairman Marnell and the commissioners, and they went ahead and accepted it. And so we went out of our way to really accommodate both promoters, because like I said, we want to live up to our expectations.
And I think that you guys really, did your homework really good. I think that this is what the fans wanted to see, some of the best judges. Dave Moretti he's one of the most respected judges in boxing, with over 178 world championship under his belt. I remember him when he was judging the fight with Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler back in the days. He was a young Dave Moretti, and he's still a young-looking guy, sharp as can be, the most humble guy you want to meet, a real professional inside the ring, outside the ring as well. And those are the kind of people we look at and we respect so much because of what they bring to the sport. And, of course, Steve Weisfield from New Jersey, another young official, has over 75 world championship fights under his belt, very well respected in the sport. Again, another professional like you can't imagine. And then you have Glenn Feldman from Connecticut, another veteran judge. So I think that you guys did your homework well. And the referee, we have to speak of the referees no more. We know that Benji said was a referee, the invisible man. Now you didn't even know who was the referee when the bell sounded, because he was all he noticed in the whole fight. And that's what we need in boxing.
Yeah, he was terrific. He really was. And really, when you go ahead and you make the recommendations that I do to the chairman and the commissioners, I take a great deal of time to go through the process. I look at how many championship fights they've done, have they proven themselves out here in Las Vegas, do they consistently perform under pressure? And I'll take over a month, and do my homework and look at the stats to see who's going to be the right fit for the championship fight.
Yeah.
Because all we want to do is make sure at the end of the night that the right fighter wins, and I believe that's what happened this last Saturday night.
Right. I take off my hat to you for being also a professional that you are. I know sometime on a Sunday, I said maybe I can catch him at home. He's probably resting today. I can talk to you a little bit, some ideas. Something popped up, and I call you up, and you're in the office working Sunday. I said, what are you doing in the office? Come on, you kidding me?
Uh-huh.
But that's Bob Bennett, a professional that he is.
Thank you.
He runs a tight ship with a good staff. We got to take off our hats off to all the staff that work with Francisco and Jeff and the whole Grand Sandy and The whole gang at the office. I think they do
Really,
a great job.
Colleen, Barbara, that's really the engine room.
Right. Guys, talk to you next week. God bless. Remember, I'm fair, but I'm firm. Touch him up.